Okay, so I'm not alone in this, but the ATF basically just bent me over the table and just started ramming their fists up there. Now, because of YouTube guidelines, I can't specifically say what they're doing, but they have done it hard and they've done it fast without warning and without lube. Now, if you live in the state of California, like many of my viewers, or if you live in one of the other states that does not allow for the registration of NFA items, you're going to be in the same boat as me. And potentially, let's say you're a person who had a felony at one point, but then later got their rights restored, you're likely also, I believe, going to be in a similar boat where if you had a pistol brace equipped firearm, you are going to be boned. Now, let's talk about that. But real quick, first, a message from our sponsor. Now, if you are in the world of gaming, PCs, that kind of stuff, chances are you've taken a look at the prices of parts and you've said, it seems like I can get a custom pre-built PC for a similar price to what a graphics card is going for in certain markets. Well, you'd be right, and that's why today's sponsor is XIDAX PC. Now, XIDAX is a custom manufacturer of PCs and laptops. They are very effectively or very competitively priced with the market. You have a full warranty on it, and let me explain to you why that's awesome and what they do is awesome. My friend went through another builder who did not offer the same type of warranty that XIDAX offers, and the other day, his power supply made a loud explosion-like sound and would not turn on. Now, if the power supply goes bad, chances are it could ruin the entire PC. Now, because he didn't have a warranty, he got lucky because the power supply did not short out the rest of his equipment. But if you had a company with a warranty like XIDAX, you could be in a much better boat and not have to worry about things like build quality or warranties because they have their own warranty that supports their equipment. I've built a PC in the past. I'd never do it again. It's not very enjoyable for me. I hate cable management. I'm more of a pack rat. So for me, if I'm going to get a future PC in the future, it would definitely be through XIDAX. I'm very happy that they support channels like me. I am what you call fringe content. And the fact that a PC company is willing to support my debauchery, very much appreciated. They're the kind of people, they're the kind of companies that you want to support, not some woke organization that is going to try to support gun bans in the future. They are supporting gun channels. That's awesome. Hey everyone, sorry for the change of location. I just wanted to continue this video, but my microphones died, so I had to change over to the studio. So I wanted to use today as an opportunity to talk about this whole pistol brace issue and how it specifically affects people in the state of California and other states more, and what you can do if you live in the state of California, what your actual options are, because it seems as if there's a lot of confusion going around. Not entirely sure why, but there is some confusion. So before we really talk about any of that, I have to talk about the topic of non-compliance. It's been a big topic on the internet. What you choose to do has to be your own decision. Don't look at what other people on the internet are saying for you to do that don't have your best interests in mind and don't necessarily understand your specific situation. For example, me, as a gun channel that I know for a fact the state of California Department of Justice does watch my channel, I have to continue to be on the up and up as far as what I do and what I show on this channel. I'm not a lawyer, this is not legal advice, but I cannot show myself breaking the law because it would have bigger impacts for people like you at home who may not be able to get their news from me in the future. And because I'm involved in some lawsuits, it would potentially impact the ability for those lawsuits I'm involved in to be successful if I was hit with a felony SBR possession. So you have to look at your own situation, analyze your own risk. Where do you shoot? What kind of guns do you shoot? Are you likely to get caught? Do you live with people that are likely to be involved with police interactions? And even if you aren't, is that risk something that you can take based on your own specific scenario? So without that out of the way, make your own decisions for yourself. Don't listen to other people on the internet. If you want advice, I would highly recommend you seek out that information for yourself. If you're looking for YouTube channels to follow, Four Boxes Diner, Fudbusters, Armed Scholar, and I think Washington Gun Law, I think they have a channel or something like that. I might be butchering that name, but those are great resources to get good information. I'm specifically today talking about people that live in the state of California and how this... So the gist of the problem that we're dealing with currently is the ATF has declared that a pistol equipped with a pistol stabilizing brace is actually and has always been a short-barreled rifle. But out of the kindness of their heart, they are allowing people a grace period to comply with the law. Now, if you live in some states that allow NFA item registration and allow SBRs, the ATF is claiming that they are going to be waiving the $200 tax stamp. However, Fudbusters brought up that they might not even be allowed to do that, so you could potentially find yourself in a situation where you still get hit with that tax stamp later down the road, or having to pay for that tax stamp, even though the ATF is saying, oh, it's a free registration because this is kind of a crazy scenario to deal with. But if you live in the state of California, you do not have the option to register this as an SBR for free or otherwise and then throw a stock on it. If you live in the state of California, you essentially have a few options. Now, the first one and the second one, which I absolutely do not recommend, the first one is to destroy the gun. I don't recommend that for obvious reasons. Now, the second option is to send your gun into the ATF to get approved or denied. Don't do that. Do not draw more eyes to your firearm from the ATF. It benefits you in no way. If you are choosing to comply with it and you cannot, because you live in the state of California, register it as an SBR, you could put a 16-inch or longer barrel on it, put a stock on it, and make it into a California-compliant non-assault weapon, whether it's featureless or fixed magazine. That's an option that you have if you live in the state of California. If you want to keep your under 16-inch barrel on your pistol, you would have to, in the state of California, remove the pistol brace completely. A common topic that got brought up that people were confused about is that the ATF is going to look at and consider whether or not the receiver extension or buffer tube of the firearm is necessary to the operation and function of the firearm, to determine whether or not that would be considered a point of contact to be considered a stock or an SBR. Now, something interesting is this was a lower receiver from a Juggernaut Tactical AR pistol that's on the handgun roster. Now, what I did was I kept it fixed magazine, and I got an upper that was 22 long rifle. The 22 long rifle AR-15 conversion bolts don't actually use the buffer tube, but this gun is still set up to be able to take a normal upper. So let's say, something to consider, you have a normal AR-15 lower receiver with a buffer tube, receiver extension, and a buffer, springed buffer in this buffer tube. If you also wanted to put on a BRN 180 or like a SIG MPX upper or a 22 long rifle conversion bolt in that gun, it would no longer need this buffer tube. So that would be kind of a gray area. If it's mostly configured that way, but then you put it on there, could that be considered manufacturing of a SBR? It's kind of hard to say. So it's difficult to really know what you can and can't do, but you do have the option of your normal AR-15s to just remove and permanently modify that brace so it can never be put back on, or destroying or getting rid of or disposing of that brace. That's really the only option. If you want to keep in the state of California your short AR-15 and have it not be considered an SBR because you can't register it as an SBR in California, you would have to remove that brace and either destroy or permanently modify it so it can't go back on, which really screws over people like me, especially since I own a BRN 180 pistol, which does not need the buffer tube. So it would essentially, if I were to convert it to a legal configuration after this 120-day grace period, I would have to just use the gun without a buffer tube or receiver extension, kind of like a mini Draco, which is not the most practical firearm and is arguably much less safe to use than a firearm with a third point of contact either on your forearm or in your shoulder. The really truly interesting part about all of this, and there will be at the end, there will be a glimmer of hope, so if you are concerned about all this and you're thinking doom and gloom, stay to the end, listen to that glimmer of hope at the end. So the ATF is basically saying that these guns have always and were always short-barreled rifles, even though at some point they were saying that these were legal pistols and explicitly approved or denied certain models. So they're having their cake and eating it too. They, for a long time, said these guns are legal in this configuration, and now they're saying they were never legal in this configuration. But out of the kindness of their heart, they're allowing you a grace period to comply with the law. Now, some people have brought up the fact that owning a full auto and owning an SBR are just as illegal. I'm not a lawyer, not legal advice, but it is probably going to be much easier to argue that your pistol brace equipped firearm shouldn't be illegal and it was not intentional versus you now knowingly manufacturing a full auto machine gun. Just something to think about. So yeah, those memes are funny. It's funny to talk about that. It's funny to bring that up, but keep in mind that your own personal safety is your responsibility, and what you choose to do has to be because you made that decision for yourself. Don't let other people on the internet pressure you into doing anything, whether it's compliance or non-compliance. Now, I really don't want you to get Waco'd. I don't want you to get Weavered, but think about this. The really shitty part about all of this is that think about how many people probably bought a gun. Think about the old dude who doesn't have a YouTube channel, doesn't have a Twitter, doesn't have an Instagram, and only watches mainstream media that happened to buy an AR-15 pistol 6, 7, 8 years ago. Maybe he bought that gun. Maybe he just said, hey, that's cool, that's neat, and then never thought about it again. Just shoots it every once in a while. Let's say one day he gets pulled over, cop sees it, and arrests him because the mainstream media is not really talking about this. And when they do, they don't really educate people well enough on the topic. And many gun stores aren't necessarily equipped to educate people on this well enough. Thankfully, where I live, there's a lot of really good gun stores, but not everyone is so fortunate. So there's going to be a lot of people out there that are going to get caught in the crossfire of this ATF decision and get their lives destroyed because of it. That's really the terrible part about all of this. Now, the glimmer of hope, the true hopefulness that I have and where this comes from really comes from the channel Fudbusters. If you don't know Matt LaRosier, I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name. I'm never going to get it right, I promise. He talked about how the way that the ATF went about doing this, first of all, they don't have the authority to make this decision, but the way that they went around doing this, there were so many procedural flaws that it opens up such a wide opportunity for organizations to attack this. Now, one of the organizations that I know is already doing something and not just e-begging and begging for money is the Second Amendment Foundation. I know organizations like FPC and GOA are probably already working on something, and those are great organizations for the federal level. If you're looking for an organization to support, right now I know Second Amendment Foundation is a good recommendation. FPC and GOA are usually also great recommendations as well. The NRA gets a lot of hate, deservedly so. If they didn't support the bump stock ban, and if the bump stock ban never went into effect, we might not have been dealing with this at all. But the state-affiliated NRA organizations like the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association, who brought us Bruin, and the CRPA, who brought us the Freedom Week cases, those are two great organizations, and if you're looking for state-level organizations, take a look to see what your NRA-affiliated organization has done for you and done for others. It might be worth looking into them. There is a glimmer of hope. Hopefully, this gets challenged and then struck down nationwide. In the meantime, while it's challenged all the way through to the Supreme Court, hopefully it doesn't need to go that far. Hopefully this all just goes away soon. But in the meantime, you may have to take some course of action. When that deadline becomes a little closer, I will probably put out a video or community post and make people aware that, hey, the deadline is here. Make sure you do something or don't do something based on your own decisions that you have decided to make. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. You guys know the drill. Have fun, be safe, stay dangerous. Peace.